Good evening and welcome to the IRN-CRU NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. Keith will be giving me dog's abuse, so just open behind the curtain, I have had an absolute nightmare in trying to start this off tonight. This is now our second go. I forgot to hit go live, so that is absolutely on me. But we're live now, as I can see all the timers and stuff, and we're going to review the games for the weekend of week 5 in what was a historically long day in NFL history where we had 15 hours and 27 minutes. And unfortunately, not all of that was commercial free, as I don't think Scott Hansen's bladder could have handled that. Now, with most of the crew either been in Detroit at a wedding or down in London for the Jets-Minnesota game, normally this is where I'd say I'm joined by some of the finest crew members around, but it feels a bit more like I'm joined by the replacements for the cult movie in 2000. Now, that being said, that would mean that I'm stuck in the role of Shane Flacco and QBing the show, and my first crew member would be the legendary coach Jimmy McGinty, here to keep me in line, and that's our resident Eagle fan and jet setter Kev. How are we doing, Kev?
I'm good, thanks, Studs. I've really enjoyed this weekend's football, possibly because the Eagles weren't playing and I didn't have to go through the stresses of watching my team, but I'm really looking forward to talking about the other games.
Good stuff. You had a nice relaxing weekend, enjoying all the stuff that we had.
Yeah, absolutely.
So joining Kev and myself tonight, we have, and again after his team's kicker exploits at the weekend, where I would normally save the kicker for our very own Bengal Stu, but it would only be right that he takes the role in Nigel the Leg McGruff, and it's our very own undoubtedly delighted kilted Texan, Graham. How are we doing, Graham?
Yeah, fine. I think I said that I wish I'd managed to get out and buy like a white beard and white hair because of how much the Texans have been aging over the past few weeks, and especially last night's exploits. So, yeah, great to be here and talk some football with you guys. It's been a great weekend of football.
Yeah, lots of stuff taking a dive into, and I think we'll just keep it flowing and dive straight into the Bills Texans, because it would only be right. For me, we will talk about the international game. Obviously, that was our first game of the weekend, but I think starting with your very own Texans, Graham, the thing that everyone seems to be talking about, we were talking about it in our gridiron chat as well, was how good those unis looked, the H-Town unis. You're obviously sporting a lot of the gear today, as you shared with me and Kev backstage. So what did you make of the unis?
Well, I thought they were brilliant, absolute fire. As we discussed backstage and stuff, it's great to see the Texans getting new unis, because 22 years we've been rocking the same stuff. You know, we've introduced 4 new uniforms, one being this new H-Town ensemble, trying to keep a bit of the H-Town blue from when Love You Blue moved out and become Tennessee Titans. You know, they took that Oiler blue colour with them, but the city itself has called out for a bit of that nostalgia colour in their uniforms, and I think they've just sprinkled the right amount of it in having the H logo and everything. You know, people are really proud about being from H-Town down in Houston, and it's a big thing for them, and they just wanted a bit of their own, you know, that special bond with Houston to be in it, because the colours aren't usually the red, white and blue of the Texas flag, but since there's the 2 teams in Texas, they wanted it to be a bit more personal and throw that H-Town blue in. So I think they're absolutely amazing. Like,
yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head and talk about the freshness and the fact that they were absolute fire. Kev, obviously, I kind of mentioned in our previous run through, we'll call it that. I'd mentioned the fact that I liked the fact that it was a new freshness, and obviously the team last year under D'Amico Ryans, they seem to have took a new role in and going forward, and obviously the emergency CJ Stroud setting the league on fire as well, and how fresh he was coming into the league. It just seemed right that they had this kind of new introduction and new uniforms, going with that fresh start. I think Graham even mentioned as well previously that they're now undefeated in the new uniforms as well. So, yeah, what did you make of them? It just naturally seemed like a good fit for starting fresh.
Yeah, I said before, I really like the uniforms. I think they're great looking and a great fit for the team. They're they're a fresh, exciting new team. Now they've got fresh, exciting new uniforms to wear. It's a perfect match. And I think it's amazing that 22 years you go without changing them. Like I wish some soccer teams would take a leaf out of some NFL teams' books and keep the same strip for more than a year. But no, I'm a bit jealous. Quite like the Eagles to do something similar.
Nah, we'll get you in kitted out in red, white, and blue yet, Kev.
No chance.
So moving on to the game then, Graham. Again, you would have been firmly glued to this. I can't imagine you would have seen much of any other games in red zone in the early window. And again, rightly so, because the game was absolutely bananas. It seemed like it was popping up quite regular on the red zone side. Houston obviously jumped out to a nice early lead, getting a couple of touchdowns in there. We had the Nico Collins bomb for the second one, which again, I think that will feature in the CRU's missile of the week this week when we're talking about those. What did you make about the fast start and how your boys played?
Yeah, I'm glad to see them have such a good fast start. We haven't been starting that well, and we haven't been getting out ahead of people. So it was great to see them finally put that together. I mentioned as well that the penalties, cleaning that up in the first half, it didn't last for the whole game, but the first half, I think we got through it penalty free. That's been massive since we've been leading the league in penalties. I think over the last 3 games, we've had 35 penalties or something. So to have it clean up so well, that led to us being able to play some decent football. You know, we weren't always behind ourselves, because if you look at social media, the Texans social media, everyone's saying it's the Texans versus the Texans just now. We just can't get out of our own way. So when we don't play bad football in that respect and penalties and stuff, that gives us the chance to build and to play and build onto having deep threat attacks. You know, our run game isn't as where it should be, but we do have the ability to go long in the field. But if you're constantly getting pulled back on penalties, you know, everyone's used to their 1st and 10s now, 1st and 20. There's nothing worse than being behind the sticks that way. You know, you're on 3rd and short. Next thing, like last week, we ended up being 3rd and 21 because we had like 3 or 4 penalties in a row. Nothing worse than stalling your own drive by beating yourself. So great to see them get out the block so early, build a big cushion, which they needed, because these Bills do not go away unless you kill them off. We didn't kill them off, let them back in, but we'd given ourselves enough to survive that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously the big talking point out of the kind of first half was Nico Collins. After that long bomb, I think you could even tell when he was going the kind of last 15 yards, you could see he was kind of pulling up a little bit. So I think it's been a hamstring injury he got ruled out with. I'd seen earlier that he's now day-to-day. I think I'd even mentioned in our chat as well, Graham, that I think your offense seemed to have stalled a bit since he kind of went off. Kev, if the Texans were to lose Nico Collins for a kind of length of time, how big a loss do you think he's going to be for them?
I mean, a player as talented as Nico Collins is going to be a big loss for any team. However, I think the Texans are better placed to cope without Collins right now, given that they've got other great talent in the wide receiver room. So Tank Dell had a special season last season, and you know, has been a lot quieter. So it gives him an opportunity, and obviously bringing in Stephon Diggs as well. They've still got weapons there. For me, I think the big question mark over them right now is can they get a run game going to take some of the pressure off? Because if they can get the ball moving on the ground, then yeah, I think they could quite easily cope without Collins for a couple of games.
Yeah, I think that was something you'd kind of touched on previously as well, Graham, and I think the guys actually touched on it in the review crew as well about Joe Mixon I think he was close to getting back for this game. He did get ruled out, so it looked like Agumbawale took the kind of lion's share of the carries, with Cam Akers getting in there as well, but they just didn't seem to be as efficient. I think the guys in the review crew were talking about how if they could get that run game going against the Bills, they could probably have killed them off, as you said earlier. So, what do we think? Do you think you'll start rolling a bit more if Mixon comes back, or do you think he maybe sits another week? Or
I think they'll bring him back. They want to sort that running back room out a little bit and have it be more dependable. It's difficult to build consistency when you aren't running with your first choice picks in RB1. You know, RB2's out. We're on RB3 and 4. They're doing a decent enough job. Dari has certainly stepped up. You know, he had his first touchdown last week. I think it's his first one since 22. It'd be a big confidence boost for him. You could see that in the way he was running the ball. So he might have actually put himself up into RB2 position now, the way that Damien Pierce's yardage is going down.
I was going to ask that. Do you still call Pierce an RB2?
Yeah, well, that's how he would probably be listed. But the drop off from his angry runs when he was first year has been incredible. Like, I think he's been averaging under 2 yards a carry, which is not good enough to be RB2, let alone anywhere near RB1. So there needs to be a bit of a mix up in that room. But if we can get Mixon out there, you know, being a banger, being a tough runner, I think that will really help build for obviously opening up the bigger playbook. You know, you can start looking down the field. That'll maybe bring back in Tank Dell, the way he can stretch the field, and he's been kind of used as a gadget player a lot lately. Yeah. But even if you look at Diggs' numbers from the weekend, he still had more than the Bills' wide receiver room on his own.
Yeah, yeah. So, see, I wish that Mixon had made that game, because you talked about the way that the Ravens ran on the Bills. And it would have been good for me to see how Mixon got on, you know, against that same D, because I mean, Brian, who usually presents this pod, he quite often says that he feels like Mixon turns up for 1 or 2 games a season, and I don't think he's been disrespectful in the sense that he's a bad running back, but I think he just means that he's kind of steady. He doesn't do anything spectacular most games, put up solid numbers, but you know, you get like 1 or 2 games a season, like week 1 that he did for you guys, and it's just been great to see on this new offense how he got on against that Bills D.
I was the same. I really want to see him back to see how we approached the game, knowing that we had him in, just like the Ravens did against the Bills. Because the Bills are such a capable team that if you can exploit a weakness like that, then you can hold them at arm's length all game, and you can make it more comfortable than, you know, and it's just more manageable at that point. So I'm in agreement. I would have loved to have seen him back. I understand why they probably kept him out, you know, because I think was it not like an illegal hip drop tackle that
didn't get called.
Yeah, it didn't get called. Much like every one of us moans about penalties not getting thrown. Every one of us. But the holds I was watching in yesterday's game, you know, I'm lucky I have a TV left.
What on the kind of obviously the hold side of things, one of the names that kept, I feel like I heard his name about 7 or 8 times on Red Zone from the defensive side of Houston, was Azeez Al-Shaair. His name seemed to come up a lot. He seemed to be causing the Bills and Josh Allen all sorts of problems. Would it be fair to say he was your kind of best defensive player on the day, because he seemed like he was pressuring Allen a lot?
Yeah, it was a funny one. Like, Hunter and Will Anderson have kind of been non-entities a little bit after all the hype. They are still applying pressure, but Al-Shaair, I think he was actually in the emergency room on Saturday as well. I think he was in there with an illness. He dropped like 10 pounds. And you've seen him in the sidelines at one point, still struggling, but he come back on. Now, if he dropped that chain that he was wearing around his neck, he would probably be able to do a quicker 40-yard dash. So he obviously wasn't toiling too much, but yeah, he's come to play this year. Probably knowing that Christian Harris will be back and pushing for a position, but the Texans D played more like they should. Like they've been a bit toothless when it comes to pressuring and stuff lately. Stingley was putting in his licks. Petley was putting in his licks. I think Lassiter put in a couple of big bangers. They were playing more like a D'Amico Ryans defense should play. Actually, one scary point for Bills fans, and nobody wants to see it, but Josh Allen went down with what looked like a heavy knock to the head.
Yeah.
Personally, not sure if he should have come back in as soon as he did. It felt to me a bit rushed.
That was definitely, that's been definitely doing the rounds today in kind of social media, and obviously last night as well. Was the fact, because that was a heavy hit. So you see his head hitting the turf. It looked like a bad one. I think I even put on our chat, I think Josh Allen's done for the day.
I mean, so when you see Sauce Gardner go out and he had to clear concussion protocols, he was away for a hell of a lot longer than Josh Allen. So, surely the protocols are the same across the league. And it should take the same amount of time, but
regardless of position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously they were driving at that point, and they're like, "Oh, we need him back in. Let's speed this up." He was out. Honestly, he looked like he was sleeping.
Yeah,
when he first went down, really worrying. I didn't know if he was going to manage to get back up. Nobody wants to see that.
No.
Great for us that their starting QB is going to be sitting on the sidelines, but you never want to see guys hurt like that at all.
Definitely not. And I think it's something that the Bills will obviously have to kind of answer for their perspective as well. But one of the things that kind of made me actually just jump onto the stats, it was just when you were talking about like, Stephon Diggs had more than the Bills receiver room or any of the Bills receivers just on his own and stuff like that. I was looking at the yardage, the stats as a whole, and if you look at the total team stats and you didn't know the score, you would have swore Houston blew the Bills out the water. Your CJ Stroud had over 300 yards himself. You said almost 100 yards as rushing as well, as opposed to the Bills only having 126 passing yards and 150 rushing yards. You're looking at that side of it, and I think it's probably a testament to how well your defense played to kind of keep them away. Seems all, and again, looking at those stats, almost as if he's possibly weren't finishing drives. But the one thing I did notice about it was, again, sort of turnovers seem to have almost been key. You guys gave up kind of 2 turnovers, one a bad interception for CJ Stroud, and then I think he lost a fumble. The Bills actually kept it clean, which is probably testament to why they were still in the game as well. But I think the kind of last point I want to touch on this one is probably the Bills' final drive. You guys are 3 up. I think that you had 3 timeouts left, but there wasn't really any. Oh, no, in fact, sorry, you were only 3 up. It was tie game at this point. Sorry. All the Bills had to do was just kind of try and waste that time. Take it into overtime. They were pinned down deep in next to their own end zone. Really weren't going to do anything for that perspective. Kev, why do you think that they chose to throw it 3 times and just kill the clock?
I've been thinking about it all day, chatting about it with a few people. I can almost kind of see they wanted the first down. They were desperate to get the first down. Now, pinned in their own end zone, you try and run the ball. It's quite dangerous. If you get a fumble there, then it's game over. Or a safety, there's a real danger there. If you drop back to run the ball, you get a safety. So I think they wanted the first down. They wanted to throw it. And I can only think that maybe they were spooked by the Texans D. They didn't want to throw it for short yardage, again, in case it got picked off or, whatever. And they've just thought, we'll go for the deep ball, one-on-one coverage, and try and get that one catch that gets us the first down and ends the game. That's the only thing I can think of. It's just they were scared to play that close to their own end zone, so they were just trying to get the ball out. That's it.
One of the other games did have a scenario that you're talking about, so we will go into a similar scenario with a running back safety.
I'll talk about the Ravens game.
But I just thought it was mental. You've got James Cook there, who, albeit had 20 carries on the day, he had 82 rushing yards as a total. He is a good runner. You at least try one, maybe two runs with him, and then I would have said maybe go for the throw, but it just seemed like, I don't know if it was a touch of arrogance for the Bills to even go, well, we've got Josh Allen, he can do whatever, and just go for it, type thing. What did you make it, Graham? You were obviously delighted when they done it.
Oh yeah. Like, I thought it was like absolute self-implosion by the Bills at that point. James Cook had been running so well against us all game. He was actually their main threat. Like Josh Allen's numbers, I think he was 9 of 30. That tells you right there that the run game is working better for you. And mind you, this is after he'd taken that head knock as well. So just how accurate was he going to be at this point? Run, just do what you've been doing well all game, gashing us in spells on the ground, get out from underneath. They almost took a safety trying to go for one of the passes. The game could have ended on a safety. Yeah. But no, glad to see it go the way it did. Numbskull in it, and that gave us an opportunity to get. I was going to practice Kayemi's full name, but there's just no way I can do it. Kayemi Fairbairn, with the game winner, and he yesterday became the Texans' top point scorer. I think he leads now the Texans in scoring points. He's the Bill killer. He offed them in the 2019 playoff game with a game-winning field goal in overtime. He offed them yesterday. He is like Kevin Costner, dances with wolves. He's keeping his buffalo scalps. So, yeah, that's how it ends for me.
Nice. Well, I'm going to ask you just one question about this game, just to see what you think. Did Coleman step out of bounds? What do you think?
I think he kept his heel up. He definitely didn't step out with the other foot, but the heel, I think, did stay up. He shouldn't have been allowed to get that far anyway, to be fair. So, we can't blame the refs at that point. We should be doing a better job at that point. But I think he managed to heads up play. He managed to keep the heel up.
Fair dues. At least you're honest. I would have said he stepped out.
Hey, if we got him beat, I would have said he stepped out.
No worries. What we'll do then, guys, we'll jump on to the next one. And again, I think the only place to go is bringing it back to London and talking about the New York Jets at the Minnesota Vikings. So we had Aaron Rodgers, happy Aaron Rodgers, or not so happy Aaron Rodgers after the game. We had Sam Darnold with his ghost stories. Again, this one, for me, I did miss this, so I think I caught the kind of last couple of drives on this one, but obviously the Vikings, the guys taking their big stroll all the way back to Minnesota. We had some very happy crew members and one not so happy Jets fan down in London. But the Minnesota Vikings taking care of the Jets 23-17 to go 5-0. The first team in week 5, or the only team at the moment in week 5 to be 5-0. Kev, what did you make of this game?
I must say that I watched that game, and I just think that bringing Aaron Rodgers to the Jets at this moment in time to me looks like a disaster. I think that they've got an outstanding defense. I can understand the logic in bringing in Rodgers to try and get the offense ticking, but to me, it just looks like you said, an unhappy guy. It doesn't look like the rest of the roster, enjoy him being there. It doesn't look like he enjoys being there either. It's just, every time there was an incompletion, he's shaking his head, throwing his head back. The Jets stayed in that game because of their defense. And I think that, for me, I don't know if Rodgers has still got it.
I think it's an interesting one. You're asking a 40-year-old coming off a Achilles injury to throw the ball 54 times. I think it's I think that's bizarre when you've got the kind of running back talent that these guys have got. But again, that's possibly me doing a disservice to Minnesota because their defense has been elite this year so far as well. And again, they've probably an unlikely hero in Minnesota, and Van Ginkel with his pick six for 63 yards. I definitely seen the highlight of that one. I did see an interesting stat on Aaron Rodgers though today in Good Morning Football, where they were going through these quarterbacks that have got pick sixes. So it's like Peyton Manning's got like 27, Drew Brees has got 27. Some of the other, Eli Manning was on that list as well. He's up there in the 20s. Aaron Rodgers has only got 5 ever pick sixes in his whole career, which is a ridiculous stat. He just does not turn the ball over. We've seen it in his previous MVP seasons as well. Graham, do you think this was just a case of Brian Flores' defence just completely outsmarted him?
Well, there's a good potential for that because I seen them firsthand a couple of weeks ago and seen how good and effective they can be. And if you look at the game as a whole, defensively was a bit of a show, wasn't it? With the turnovers, like was it 4 interceptions in the game, and there was like 7 sacks between the two teams. Yeah. But the way that Rodgers is playing, defenses will feed on that body language. When he's portraying this like he's frustrated and that's only going to fire up the defense to come after him more, to step up on him more. That's why we've seen like the picks. He'll begin to force it into coverages that he maybe shouldn't be throwing it into because he feels he has to take the team more on his back and force it. And when you're playing up against a team that's coming in with a record of 4-0, they're obviously not there they've got there for a reason.
Yeah,
they play both sides of the ball really well. So to try and be over aggressive against these guys, it won't pay off. So yeah, and that defense they'll just swing the bat at you, so to speak. They will tee off on you. The amount of pressure they got on us a couple of weeks ago was unbelievable. So I assumed it was just going to be exactly the same in this, and look at what they achieved with that pressure.
Yeah, it was an outstanding showing for the Vikings D as well. It was two top defenses going up against each other. I think for me, Lazard was kind of the main culprit. He had a few drops. I would say a couple of them were on Lazard, a couple of them were on Rodgers, but yet every time Rodgers is throwing his head back and looks disgusted, and I think that's not going to help Lazard the next time you throw him the ball. The other thing is, one of the guys on the coverage said on TV that they feel that's a big difference between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, because if Tom Brady threw you the ball and you dropped it, you didn't get it again. Whereas Rodgers, I don't know if it's because Lazard and him, have got history, but it was actually one of the better showings from
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, yeah. I was going to say Myles Garrett. Garrett Wilson. It was one of his best games since Rodgers came. But certainly, probably, in fact, statistically, his best game this season. So he was actually playing pretty well. But Rodgers kept going back to Lazard. Now, if you're throwing it to him and he's dropping it, and you're clearly not happy, why do you keep throwing him the ball? So I don't know. I just think something's not right. All is not well on that offense right now, and I think that it's probably mostly down to Rodgers.
Do you think he's trying to show them we need Devontae Adams, so I'm going to keep force feeding this guy that's got stone hands?
Possibly, but like I said, you've got a young guy, a young stud who there's big hopes for. Everybody's thinking, yeah, now we've got Aaron Rodgers, he's going to fly, and Rodgers isn't throwing him the ball. So yeah. I just, I get it if he's throwing the ball to him and he's dropping it. Then fair enough. You go, I need weapons, but you're chucking the ball to another guy who's dropping it, but you've got him there who's having his game of the season, and you're not throwing him it. I just don't understand.
Yeah, no, listen, as somebody that's got shares in Garrett Wilson for fantasy football, I was absolutely delighted we showed it the weekend. That was the first time this season I can honestly say that, because I think he's been under 10 points every game so far. A couple of scary ones on this as well. We've seen Sam Darnold going out of the game. He took some time off. I think Nick Mullins come in. I think it was maybe just for a drive, right enough, because Darnold did come back out there, but he just didn't look as effective as what he has this year. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers, he went down as well. I think they're reporting he's got an ankle sprain of some sort. So I dare say we'll get more news on that. I'm not going to touch on this too much longer, because I think the guys that were actually there, they'll probably go wax lyrical about their experience when we were there. I know we certainly seen the various parts going up on Instagram and through X and stuff like that. Some of the kind of crowd meetups, it just looked like an absolute blast for the guys. So I dare say they're suffering for it right enough, but I'm sure they enjoyed it. And sorry, one other thing as well is that Aaron Jones going out for the Vikings as well. They'll be keen to kind of get him back, because he has been absolutely electric for them so far this season. So, right, so we're going to move on then, and we'll move on to a divisional game here. We're going to move on to the Ravens and Bengals. Now, this one was an absolute barn burner. This was just two quarterbacks going back and forth. I think the defences had stayed at home. The two quarterbacks seemed to be able to do what they wanted. You had Lamar Jackson stiff arming Hubbard not once but twice in the same play, and then catching Likely in the back of the end zone with a touchdown to keep the Ravens in touching distance. Derrick Henry doing Derrick Henry things and doing some not so Derrick Henry things, be getting tackled for safeties in his own end zone. Graham, did you manage to catch much of this game, or?
I didn't catch a lot of this one. Most of what I seen was while I was tweeting about the Texans game at the same time. But I knew it was kind of turning into one of that slobber knockers, as old GR would say. But a back and forward. I think it's about time that Joe Burrow has come alive like he did. Like throwing for as many yards as he did. I think everyone's been waiting for this. And the frustrating thing is when you go off like that, you end up still getting beat.
Yeah.
Like how much of a kick in the stones is that? Like you're pretty much at 400 yards passing, 5 TDs, and you still get beat. Like, what do you have to do? Like, there must be something hanging about the Bengals this year. Like, what do we need to do this year?
I think it must be so, as you said, it's got to be so disheartening for them. And I think it's probably the most unlike Bengals defence we've seen in a couple of years. Lou Anarumo's defences have been notoriously hard to diagnose, and that's coming from a Chiefs fan who's seen them more often than I'd like. But they just seem to... Hubbard was... Again, I feel bad for Hubbard, because I think he was the one that got the sack on... Well, say sack. He got the tackle for a loss on Henry for the safety, and then he just gets absolutely abused off Lamar Jackson with a couple of stiff arms. But he was one that seemed to, as if he was having a good game, he seemed to be on Lamar's case quite a lot, forcing him out of the pocket, forcing him into these kind of scrambles. Just didn't seem to make a difference. Kev, do we think... What do we think, Ravens and Bengals? Do we think that's the Bengals season done, and do we think that's the Ravens finally starting to kind of turn that corner and make that push?
As far as the Bengals go, I mean, no, I think if they play like that, they'll win most weeks. They're not going to lose too many games putting up those sorts of numbers and playing the way they played. The problem is they came up against the Ravens, who look like they're really, really starting to roll. Like you say, Lamar, he looks like he's on the top of his game right now. That play that you talked about where he got out of the pocket, he went for a little run, he put the tackler down a couple of times and then chucked it up to the end zone. It was ridiculous. And when Lamar's playing like that, sometimes you just got to hold your hands up. And I think that the Ravens, with all the weapons that they've got now, especially adding Derrick Henry into that mix, they're going to be really, really hard to stop.
I think he actually fumbled that snap as well at the start of it, so it wasn't even a clean snap. He literally fumbles the snap and then has to start running for his life. It was just ridiculous. It's probably so far probably the play of the season so far. And I think that from a Lamar perspective, I actually think this is the start of him maybe pushing for a back-to-back MVP. Because if he's playing like that, he's going to be difficult for the voters to kind of go against on that one. This one, kind of speaking of kind of fumbled snaps, it kind of came down into overtime to a couple of fumbled snaps again. So we had Lamar fumbling the ball just as the Ravens got possession, won the toss, marching up the field. Lamar fumbles it. Bengals take over around about midfield, get some yardage going, and then we have an untimely low snap for the kick, and then the holder is fumbling and trying to kind of get that ball squared up for McPherson, who ultimately shanks it wide at that point, and then from there, Derrick Henry just kind of took over. Graham, I think I don't know about you, but I think it's a shame that that's how that game's kind of ended. It was a barn burner, but ultimately it's kind of come down to fumbled snaps on the back of it. What do you think? Do you think that was a poor way for it to end, or?
Sometimes that's how these games have to end, but it's pressure, obviously pressure, especially on the snap and the hold and stuff. The Bengals have been suffering badly this year with not being able to play the type of football that the Bengals are used to playing, and that's probably shown in that snap and hold. The pressure that's on them there. Nobody's confident about their job and how they're doing their job. Special teams is obviously a bigger part to the game than a lot of people give it credit for. Like if that had been made, absolute heroes turned into like yourself, the baddies. But yeah, this is what these games come down to. You can play excellent football for pretty much every stage of it, and it'll come down to a fumbled snap. And it's heartbreaking as much as it is poetic in some of these games that they are so good to come down to the worst mistake possible. But that's why we love the game, because we're always hoping for a fumbled snap when it's the other offense on the field. Yeah. We're hoping for these things, and look at the excitement that two pieces generated at the end of that game to lead up to the actual climatic finish.
Yeah, I mean, watching it looked like the game that nobody wanted to win at that point, and that's crazy when you consider what the two teams had done to try and get the win up until that point. The two of them played incredible football, but yeah, the run for Henry deserves to win the match. You just kind of park the two fumbles and just appreciate the breakout for the King at the end to win it.
That was an unbelievable run. I think it was first play when they got the ball back, and again, that's just absolutely ripped the heart out of all the Bengals fans. And when he starts powering down that sideline for the 50 odd yarder, I think he even thought he was going to score. I think I heard a bit of his interview after it, and he didn't realise once he'd stiff armed the guy, he thought that was him clear, so he slowed down. He didn't realise there was another guy behind him. And he actually says, he's like, if I knew he was there, I'd have stiff armed him as well. So he's great value. And as soon as you see him starting to throw the stiff arms out, you genuinely must just get the fear. As soon as that right or left arm comes up for Henry and you're coming to tackle him, you must just fear for your life and fear for your life choices. Maybe that's the kind of business decisions that Antonio Pierce has been moaning about for the Raiders side of things. One of the big takeaways for me for this one was probably, I think it's the first, well, I think Higgins was back last week, but I think it's the first time they've really shown up with the two receivers for the Bengals, and the two of them have balled out. It's like Burrow's first kind of full season where he had those two weapons, and you just seen how effective he was. I mean, chase nearly 200 yards alone. What I find ridiculous is the fact they had 12 targets and they only caught 10 of them. I mean, the audacity to drop to. But that's a ridiculous stat line, 193 yards. And his touchdown, his long touchdown that he got, was just a thing of beauty. I think he actually says that he'd made an arse of the play right enough, which is how he kind of got to that point. What do we think? Do we think that's the Bengals receiving core and we are going to see the Bengals start to kind of push on for here? Do we think they can get to the playoffs? I mean, they're what now? On 1-4 now for the season, yeah. So do we think that's in there? Do we think they're actually going to kick on for this and they can take more positives? What do we think? Kev, I'll start with you.
Like I said before, I think if they play like that now most weeks, like with their big weapons back, and all seem to be firing now, I think that they will win more than they lose. I think they could quite easily end the season still with a winning record. So they're in a tough division to get to the playoffs, but they might well be able to sneak a wild card.
Cool. What do you think, Graham? Do you think Bengals will kick on for here, even though it was a heartbreaking loss?
I think they can. I generally didn't see them being in this position this early, to be honest, this year. Like, I had pretty much everyone in the AFC North kind of going about their business and slapping folk about all around the league and not seeing them in this position. So it's kind of tough for them to be in here, and they might get in the wild cards, but it's going to be a long road back for them because their division is so tough. Picking up divisional wins is going to be difficult for them.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they can't do it, but it's going to be a long shot. And going back to your fantasy football stats, like Jamar Chase, oh my goodness, he could have won you your week on his own.
Tell me about it. Kev's got him against me, Graham. I haven't played Kev.
No, that's not me. That must be another game stud. You're getting beat up.
Have you not get Chase in the gridiron one?
No, I don't think so. No, I've not got Chase in any leagues. That's my target for next year's drafts. I've never been an owner of Jamar Chase. I need to pick him up next season.
You'll need to be top 5, I reckon, to get Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
To be fair, after the Bengals doing me in week 1 of the last man standing, like I honestly, I hope they're rock bottom.
You're wanting to pick up another one.
Oh, brilliant! Listen, I'll be happy if we get to the playoffs and the Bengals are there. I'm getting bored of the Chiefs Bengals. I want to see Chiefs playing somebody else. But what we'll do, we'll start firing on to just kind of quick fire ones, guys, and we'll start rattling through the rest of the games. I'm going to keep it divisional just to kind of start us off. So, Graham, I'm going to stay in your division. Again, a game you probably had a wee side eye on because it was divisional rivals. Colts and Jags. Jags picking up their first win of the season. Just about seeing off the Flacco-led Colts, who seems to be absolutely ridiculous enough for the Colts, and getting a walk-off winner at the end with a field goal. Did you catch any of the highlights of this one? You get any quick points on it?
I just got to do a little fist pump, when I seen the Colts fall. Obviously, we want to be as far ahead in the division as possible. And when you have divisional games like Colts against the Jags and it ends the way it does, good game, back and forward game. Like Flacco, the Browns must be kicking themselves that they let Flacco move on. He's still got so much tread on the tires. He'd have been far better choice there. I know they paid Deshaun all that money, but Flacco would have been the better bet there. He was really good at the end of last season. Still obviously can do it. Richardson's a guy there, but prone to getting hurt. Doesn't really, that's him already hurt again this season. Last season he was hurt a lot. Jaguars played really well against us last week. I said they probably could build on that. They've done that. They got the win in a divisional game, first win of the season. They now go on to London and play 2 back-to-back games in London. Who says they can't come out of this next couple of weeks 3-4?
Yeah. What was it? Bears this week, Patriots next week. Is that right?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What a time to pick up some momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Kev, obviously, Graham's made an excellent point there on Flacco and the fact that the Browns should have kept him. But I think even looking around the league, there must have been some other, and again, we're probably going to talk about them next with another divisional game that could have done with a bridge quarterback, if you like, and Joe Flacco to see them through for the year. Why did nobody think to even pick this guy up?
I mean, I think Graham's right. The bigger question is, why did the team he was with not keep a hold of him? Because they're struggling badly on offense, and he did do a good job at the end of last year. But I think it's a perfect fit where he is, for the reasons that's already been discussed. Like, they've got a young quarterback who has been hurt a lot, who they maybe can't rely on, and he's a great, backup, a steady hand to come in. And I believe that they were saying during the game that's 7 games back to back that he's thrown multiple receiving touchdowns. So yeah, he's done well, and I think on the game itself, two good teams who I think are building and heading in the right direction. I don't think either of them are going to really be much of a threat in the postseason, but they've both got the pieces in place now. I think good young quarterbacks and some decent talent on the attacking side of the ball at least. I like Alec Pierce. He's a really good deep threat. So yeah, it was a fun game to watch, and two teams that I think are heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think Joe Flacco was trying to get his own crew missile of the week on his own with the 2 passes to Alec Pierce, to be fair. The 2 of them were absolutely frightening. And then we also, we seen, who was it? Somebody put it on Twitter. It was like Jamar Flaxen after his electric run where he broke out the pocket and ran for like 20 odd 30 yards, stuff like that. So 39-year-old, and he looked like he was running in soup. But no, it was that was another one, another divisional game. 2 teams that know each other a lot, back to back, going up and down the field on each other. I actually heard, I'm trying to think whether it was Good Morning Football or whether it was maybe the Pat McAfee show, where I actually heard them talking about potentially why not just sit Richardson? Richardson's really inexperienced. He didn't play a lot in college. Have him sit behind Flacco for the year and let him learn. Flacco's built, he's got a great relationship with Downs. He's obviously got a good relationship with Pierce, going with the passes as well. And even Pittman, not so much this week, Pittman last week actually started to show up as well. So I think there's probably an argument for that as well.
I think that's a great shout. That's something I actually meant to say there. It might be good for Richardson to just sit and learn from him as well, and properly get over whatever his physical problems are, because, like you say, he can't seem to stay fit at all. Maybe if he learns from a guy who's been around the block, maybe he can teach him how to protect himself a bit better, or make the smart calls and not put himself in harm's way quite so much.
Yeah, definitely. Right, we'll bounce on then. I've got 2 divisional games here, which I don't expect to spend a lot of time on. So, Kev, a team that's close to your heart in Miami Dolphins at the Patriots. So we've got a 15-10 win for the Dolphins. And again, it ties in quite nicely with the Patriots, obviously, who were looking for a bridge quarterback. They went with Jacoby Brissett. I don't know if you've seen much of this game. I know I didn't, because I was watching Red Zone. And would you make of this game? I'll start with you. As I say, if you want to keep it short, I won't hold it against you.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think you're right. I was watching Red Zone too, and it didn't come up much in Red Zone because I don't think there was really much going on in the game. Big thing to take away there is Achan or Achan. Well, I don't know how you say his name, but Achan, we'll say, getting hurt again. He's another guy that looks really, really exciting, but just can't seem to stay healthy. So yeah, the Dolphins finally getting a win. There's no much else to say. I mean, the Pats aren't really looking good right now at all. I was actually surprised that the Pats managed to stay in it as long as they did. But then again, the Dolphins playing with their backup QB as well, maybe not quite firing yet. So yeah, not a lot really to talk about in that one.
Yeah, I think HR is obviously the kind of big concern on that one because he left the game very early. Ramondre Stevenson, actually, I remember seeing a couple of clips of him. He looked not too bad considering he was supposed to be getting dropped at the start of the week.
Well, he did start as a backup, but the first time they gave him the ball, he broke out and made a massive run, and then they just kept on feeding him after that. So yeah, that was it. That was interesting, I suppose, because I've got him in one of my fantasy leagues. I wasn't happy when I heard that he was demoted to backup. But when you keep fumbling the ball the way he has through the first 4 weeks, then you've got to expect that. But he definitely turned up for the Patriots. I think if it wasn't for him, then it would have been a comfortable day at the office for the Dolphins.
Yeah. Division rivals for myself. We had the Raiders at the Broncos. Again, I didn't see too much of this. I didn't actually even realise it was as much a blowout as what it was in 34-18 for the Broncos. I think the big one I remember seeing on this is, and it's probably one that you two guys have seen as well, is the Pat Surtain pick 6 even, which really seemed to swing the momentum in this one. I also seen a clip of Max Crosby as well, which I did find quite amusing. I don't know if you guys have seen that one on Twitter today where he's telling Bo Nix to speak up because his O-line can't hear him at one stage. So it get picked up on the mics. Graham, you take away anything for that one? Or
the one big clip I seen of this game was on that Surtain pick. The flag that got thrown for what looked to be like, the tackle to when Minshew was trying to get across to bring him down, and he got absolutely pancaked into oblivion. And they threw the flag, and it's like you can't make a more textbook tackle than that. His hands were in the right place. He just drove right through him. You take your shots when you can, and they took it right there and then. But to see the Broncos put such a hammering on the Raiders, I didn't see that one coming, to be honest. I thought it was going to be comfortable for the Raiders. They seem to have found their identity a bit lately. All seem to be playing in the same direction. Their penalties have dropped. I think I heard a bit of the commentary saying that this is unusual territory for the Raiders because referees are usually just like, well, it's the Raiders, let's just throw a flag. So the fact they're playing so clean, maybe they just need to get dirty again and go back to the old Raiders style of play, smash mouth. But yeah, very surprised at that result. Bo Nix seems to be finding his groove there. Played really well, safe with the football, seems to be. Good on him.
Yeah. No, definitely. He seems to kind of have a hot and a cold week, I feel like, with Bo Nix. But again, he's probably got one of the best coaches to work with in Sean Payton. He knows what he's doing with his quarterbacks for that perspective. But obviously, on the quarterback side, you've got Aidan O'Connell come in for the benched Minshew on that one as well. So it might be that we see O'Connell moving forward for the Raiders. Whether that'll make much of a difference for them, I really don't know. I know he played a bit last year. Obviously, got a win against us in around about Christmas time, which was just an absolutely horrendous game. Not even just because we lost; it was just an awful game to watch. But I will see how the Raiders going forward. Probably the other biggest divisional game, and this one was in the late window. Actually, I caught a fair bit of this one. Cardinals at the 49ers. Probably one of the bigger upsets on the week. I know we did have quite a few upsets, but I just did not see the Cardinals going into this one taking care of the Niners. Electric start for the Cardinals and the Kyler Murray run for the 50-yard touchdown. I could watch the clip of that all day because as soon as you see him hit by the line of scrimmage when he's actually calling the fact that he's gone, was hilarious. He's at like the
good.
40-yard line and his hands up. He's like, I'm gone. And it put me in mind of like Tyreek Hill used to put the deuces up to people as he ran by them. 49ers kind of got themselves another 10-point lead and then just seemed to blow it. What do you guys think? Do you think the 49ers have got an issue in closing games out?
I think as the book shut in on the Niners,
The window closing, we're doing a Bills with them for last year.
Yeah, is this what we're seeing in real time just now?
I think there's. Listen, I've got Jordan Mason as my backup for CMC being injured in fantasy, and I've been delighted with Jordan Mason. He had a hell of a costly fumble in this one. Obviously, we know he's not CMC. That's absolutely fine. We don't expect him to be, but he had a costly fumble in this one late on in the game. They're just not the same team, the 49ers. They really aren't. Deebo's coming back for injury, but he's not really firing. Ayuk showed up this week. I think he had like 100 yards in the first quarter. Where was he the rest of the game? Do you know what I mean? So I just don't know. I think you look at their defence. Their defence is elite. Fred Warner, I've spoke about in the CRU podcast before, how good he is. He is absolutely unreal. You had Nick Bosa with a massive interception as well. Again, I seen that interception, and if you guys have seen The Waterboy, when Adam Sandler, the guy slags his mum off very early when he's playing, and he just gives him the ball after intercepting it, and the offensive lineman just starts running with it. Bosa getting that pick just put me in mind of that guy. He just didn't know where to kind of go, and it was just, it was a crazy game. I don't know. I think if the 49ers can hang around until CMC comes back, I think it'll be like a light switch for them. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, I think the same. I think they're badly missing CMC, and I know people have been saying, "Oh, Mason, the numbers he was putting up in fantasy the first couple of weeks of the season." In fact, somebody put in our group chat last night, "CMC who?" And
that's Stu.
And just like 10 seconds after he posted it, Mason, had that fumble. And yeah, I think that as well as he's done, he's no CMC. And again, anybody's going to miss CMC, even with all the weapons that they've still got. He's huge to the way they play because he runs, he receives. He's just, 4 quarters as well. Like you say, Ayuk showed up early yesterday, but you quite often find that there's no many 4-quarter players in the NFL. But CMC just seems to be able to kill you at any point in the game. So I think once he comes back, they will kind of revert to type.
Yeah, I do think I think if they can stay run about the 50, the 500 mark, I think they'll be okay. I think they will start to kind of click on for there. But for those of you that don't know, this is a typical Stu thing. He will compliment a player and something bizarre will happen. It's the Stu curse, honestly. As soon as he mentioned that, as you say, when Mason makes that fumble, it had to be Stu, to be honest, that made that comment. Right, we'll fire through the last few games. I'm going to save one of them to last.
2 seconds. Does just to crack on? I'll be back in 2 seconds, all right?
Yeah, we'll crack on. So I'm going to save one of them for last because I think we need to talk about one player in particular on that one. So we've got Packers at Rams. Packers winning 24-19 in the end up. So seemed to kind of come good on that one. Graham, did you catch any of this game? There's one highlight in particular I remember seeing, but it's for all the wrong reasons.
I find with the later slate of games, just being and being up early and doing the work I do, there's a lot of times that when after the Texans game shuts down, I get half an hour, and then that's me starting to be on the wind down. So I usually catch the results the next day. Good for the Packers to see Love back doing what Love does. Obviously got hurt playing against Kev's Eagles. Last 8 seconds, that's kind of stalled them a bit. But with them being back, that's them starting to push off from what they did last year. Rams seem to be in a bit of a slump just now. Not the Rams that we're used to seeing. But no, I haven't seen any of the big highlights from the game. To be honest, I would normally do a lot of that tonight.
Yeah, but, we're taking up your time.
No, not at all. Not at all. I like hearing it firsthand from you guys sometimes, so you put a better spin on it.
There's one highlight in particular, as I say, there's two highlights that kind of jump out. There was a Jaden Reed catch, which was absolutely ridiculous, and I think as soon as he made that catch, our WhatsApp chat just exploded. How has he caught that? Oh my God, Reed. It was just an unbelievable catch. But Kev, what was Jordan Love thinking? Please tell me you've seen his interception for the pick six.
Do you know what I have? But I'm struggling. I've seen most of that game, but I'm struggling to remember because there was a few strange pick sixes.
He's in his own end zone, so again, it's something we've been talking about it a few times.
Falling back, and he tries to just chuck it up the line and chucks it straight to the defender. Yeah, I've seen that.
The defender's literally 2 yards outside the end zone, and he must have thought all his Christmases came at once. He's just went, "Oh, here we go." But I think I can't remember the play that got.
It does well to stay in bounds, though. To be fair, because he's right on the line when he's catching it, and he just gets to the pylon and no more. But that was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Great play from the Rams defender. His name's escaping me now, but it was a great play for him. But Jordan Love just chuck that ball with everything you've got, get it out of bounds, don't even leave any doubt in it. But fair play to him, he did bounce back on that front because that was quite early. I think the Rams actually probably thought they had the game at that point because they did seem to have a lot of momentum. They had them pinned in, and then they get that absolute gift. But I think the Rams are toiling. I think they're probably one that's safe to say that their season's done. I don't think we're going to be seeing them come January, February time.
No, I mean, with NCRU and Cup going out though, that's really rough luck. So I think both of them should be back. I think soon.
I think they go in their bye week this week, so Cup's not been put in IR. So I think he's due back before NCRU. But I'm hoping as much as anything else that Cup comes back because I do have a lot of shares in him. I bought him very low during the draft. So, but yeah, as I say, good win for the Packers on that one. So the Giants and the Seahawks as well. So we find Giants pulling off. This is probably the other one that I would have said was a major upset. Because the Seahawks looked like they'd been playing great football. Giants went into their house and took care of them, 29-20 on that one. Any quick thoughts for this one on you guys, as I say?
I think you've got to give credit to Danny Dollar because, he gets a lot of stick. He does get a lot of stick. There's a lot of people writing him off. But it just seems to find performances somewhere to keep himself in that starting job. So yeah, that was a big win, and the Giants played really well.
Yeah, massive blocked field goal at the end to win it for the Giants as well. That the Giants defender that leaps over the Seattle line to get his hand on that block was frightening. In fact, there was another blocked field goal that got returned for a pick six, and I can't remember what game it was in. But there was a couple of them this weekend. But on that one, and again, as you said, Danny Dollar had he had his favourite weapon removed. He had no Devin Singletary, no neighbours, and they still went in and put a performance like that.
And I mean, he was linking up with multiple receivers. He was running, using his legs. He just had a really good game. So I think when we were at the Stramash Top Golf live podcast, Gav had said his hot take was that Dimes would do just enough to keep the starting job this year. And after watching that, I think I might agree with him.
Yeah. I do think he got a lot of help right enough from his defensive line, and shout out to the bit. I'm going to give some big guy love here and big sexy Dexy, because he was somebody that popped up a good few times on Red Zone for what he was doing. He was victimising that Seattle O-line.
You heard his name a lot, but I mean that's the thing. They have got a great defense, so he's going to be in games. The Giants are going to have opportunities. They're going to hang around. So if he keeps on putting in performances like that, then they could do pretty well. When we done the preview for our division this year, I came out of it actually pretty positive about all 4 teams in our division. Just listening to the guys talking their teams up, and I must say that so far Washington, we've not touched on them yet, but looking pretty good. The Giants, that was a big win for them. See if they can kick on. I think we're probably the ones that are underperforming so far in this division. So.
Nah, we will get to Washington. They're the one I want to keep to the end, because I do want to kind of touch on a specific player who I'll be absolutely under no illusion to who that is. So the last game that I think before that one that we've got to touch on, so Cowboys Steelers, so Sunday Night Football, massively delayed game due to the weather in Pittsburgh. So Cowboys eating out a win, 2017. Seen a couple of highlights on this one. I do have a statistic on this one that ties in with this game as well. But yeah, Cowboys kind of doing just enough. I don't know if you guys have caught any of the highlights. It was that Jalen Tolbert touchdown at the end to win it, which nice throw for Dak. But I think the highlights of this one have been the sideline for Dallas. Again, for the wrong reasons, probably. But yeah. Kev, did you catch anything?
I caught the highlights of that one as well, yeah. And like you say, it was a good throw at the end for Dak to get the win, but far too much time. Last play of the game, 4th and goal. They've got to try and get pressure on him, and they didn't. But I think the big difference in the game, that was again two great defensive showings. The big difference is the experience of the quarterbacks. Dak just made a lot of clutch plays. He also had, I think maybe the Cowboys had the better receiving weapons, and obviously the quarterback with the more experience, and that was the big difference in the end, because there wasn't a lot in it. It was a really tight game, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's no the wheels coming off for Pittsburgh, but I think they were always kind of due a defeat. I think it was always going to be a close one they were going to lose, because they've been in these kind of close games so far, and they've been kind of getting the wins, just getting over the line. I think it'll be interesting to see how Pittsburgh kind of turn up next week and see how they bounce back, essentially. There's been talk, did they go to Russell Wilson? Did they stick with Fields? So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works for their perspective.
That'd be interesting. I mean, having watched the highlights, that might have made a difference last night. Having Wilson in there instead of Fields could have made the difference, because, as I said, I think it was just Dak's experience, and the fact that he probably has more weapons on his offense that he can rely on than what the Steelers do. But like you say, the Steelers, they've been winning close games because their defense is going to keep them in games, but they've came up against a team whose defense were a match for them, and they couldn't put up the points. But I think Russell Wilson might have found a way to keep the ball moving, because it seemed as if Dak just moved up the field a lot easier than what Fields could. And I think that's what wore the Steelers down in the end, and what ultimately got them the win.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the quarterback conversation goes. Graham, I'm going to, as a man who's got his own diva wide receiver in his team, have you seen the clips of CD Lamb in the sidelines after Dak threw a pick? Who's
our diva?
Oh, sorry, ex-diva. He's not a diva just now. He's an ex-diva.
He's behaving just now. No, I didn't see what CD was up to, but is he not being kind of threatening to do that the last couple of weeks?
That's what I was going to say. So he seems to have kind of got paid, and now he seems to be a bit more vocal on the sidelines. I don't know if the two of them are linked or not, but he wasn't happy. I think Dak threw. It was a bad pick. I'll be honest. I don't even know if it was towards CD. I think it might have been towards Tolbert or something. And then CD's definitely got some choice words for him about it. So it seems like the two of them aren't on the same wavelength just now. We've seen how good they can be, but it might just be something to monitor. It may not all be rosy in the offensive garden for Dallas. But Dan had certainly been interested in wanting to get his take on it.
It's things you hate to see, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Aye, absolutely.
I could almost sense sincerity in your voice there, Graham.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight, worrying about it.
Oh, you're talking to the wrong crowd here.
I've just realised that. I'm sitting thinking to myself, it's somebody in the same state and somebody in the same division. I'm like, this is just not the audience for this conversation, for any sympathy whatsoever.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you can ask Daniel's take on it.
So, what's your cracking stat on that game?
Oh, I'll save that for my statistic. I want to cover this last game.
I might know what it is. I might know. So I'm gonna save what I think it is as well. I'm not gonna bring it up.
If we're jumping on our divisional, my divisional rivals for the last game, are we not going to touch on CRU Chains?
Oh, actually, Thursday Night Football. I forgot about Thursday Night Football.
Prime Time Kirk.
I genuinely forgot about that one. Primetime Kirk shows up again. By the way, Primetime Baker as well. Laser Mayfield is a name I've been heard getting kind of bandied about. I watched the highlights of this one. I wasn't staying up for it, but how good a game was the Bucks and Falcons? I mean, that was two quarterbacks going toe to toe. Kirk Cousins stealing Matt Ryan's record for the most yards by a Falcon.
477 passing.
I think it was 500 and something. 509. Aye, he surpassed Matt Ryan's record. Yep, 500.
What was the total offensive yards?
I will Google that. I will bring that up just now. But you guys talk amongst yourselves whilst I do that.
Wow. But, can you imagine if Kirk Cousins was still in Minnesota?
That ridiculous.
I know.
Ridiculous.
His heart was in Minnesota. I think he wanted to stay, but I don't think Minnesota wanted to pay him. Essentially, and it was listen, he's found his feet certainly. It's 509, so 42 completions out of 58 attempts and 509 yards for Cousins, and 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and even just Baker wasn't actually.
No, Baker's numbers are like Cousins threw 3 times more, pretty much.
Yeah.
Than Baker, but the game's still as close as it is. This is how this league is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, Baker only threw 24 passes, 19 completed, 108 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns. So it was 42 in the ground for Baker as well. So he was scooting about. But
no wonder was he sacked like 7 times or something?
He did get sacked a good few. I get 4 sacks on Baker.
4
is what I'm seeing.
You know what I mean? So,
but I mean, the Falcons moving the ball like that through the air, and they've got Bijan Robinson, who like barely was involved in the game. Can you imagine if they started getting him involved as well?
It's crazy. I mean, he came out as like an elite running back from Texas, I think it was, and I just the last 2 weeks he's, in fact, started the season, I think he got a touchdown week 1, and then he's been pretty quiet for the Falcons. But they're just they were motoring on Thursday night. I mean, Drake London was the big Drake London and Mooney actually, because I think the two of them had over 100 yards as well. So they were just quite happy. But again, I think the guys may have touched on it in the preview crew. The Bucks they've got very good run defense. Even you've got Villa in there. He's such a massive plus for that D line, especially on the running side of things. So it could have been that, but they certainly got it moving through the air.
It was just a game plan, just stay away from the run and just keep it in the air. But that was interesting. The Falcons will be interesting to keep an eye on this season. I think that the way that Kirk's starting to fire right now. They could be a really, really tough team to come up against for anybody.
Aye, definitely.
Well, that division's wild if you think about it, because everyone else there, apart from the Panthers, can lay the stick on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and normally, like that was at the NFC South, isn't normally. It's like the AFC South. It's not normally talked about that much, really, considering like they've had so many Super Bowls down there between the Bucks and the Saints, but. Yeah, that three teams down there, like nobody will want them on a like when they're having a good day.
Yeah, hopefully the Saints have a good day tonight.
Well, you're going to you're going to have 3-3-2. Oh no, they'll be 2-3. Sorry, you'll have 3-2 teams and 1-2-3, so it'll be tight. Aye, nah, I'm hoping the Saints disappear for the night. They've maybe missed a flight to Kansas or something.
Now we're hoping you go 4-1.
I did say this to you before we started. There's always one game where the Chiefs just don't show up. It was the Colts last year away. Hopefully the Arrowhead crowd helps, but we'll see how it goes. I've still got my power nap in to get up and watch this one, so see. You might have a few messages when you get up in the morning about how despondent I am. Right, so just one last game to talk about then, guys. So we had the Browns at the Washington Commanders. Guys, talk to me about Jaden Daniels. That's really the only thing I want to talk about this game. How good is this guy? Graham, I'll come to you first. I mean, this guy's obscene.
Yeah, he's been colossal, isn't he? He's nigh on unstoppable, really. He's playing with so much confidence. It's like he was built for it. Commanders fans must be, they must be ecstatic to have him as the guy. And just a total, it's like a complete opposite to what's going on over in Cleveland's situation. So yeah, Commanders fans be extremely happy to have the guy that they've got just now. He's been fun to watch and fun to read about his stats and everything. He's lightning.
Oh, he's absolutely ridiculous. And the thing, I think a lot of people were kind of worried about the size of him coming in, and they thought he's not going to be able to handle the hits. People don't seem to be able to get near him to hit him. You know what I mean? Kev, you must be terrified at the thought of coming up on this forum. You must have a bit of trepidation about him.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I mean, actually, after doing the season preview, I was actually quite looking forward to watching the Commanders because there was so much optimism for the Commanders fan on the pod about the way that they're set up this season, and there was just a lot of positivity around them, and I must say that it was well placed. They're looking fantastic. I was really disappointed they never scored in their opening drive this week.
I know. Was that the first time? Was it 17 drives or something they had? Something ridiculous like that?
Aye, back-to-back scoring drives. But the first week this season they didn't score in their opening drive, and I thought, that's him. He's a bust now.
Aye,
but
that's how he's done.
He's done. It's over. But the boy's great to watch. And as a team, you can just see the confidence that's given them. They've got guys like Brian Robinson Jr., who's starting to play really well. Obviously, Terry McLaurin's always been a good player, but they talked on that preview about now having a really good quarterback throwing the ball to him, how he could have a real breakout year this year. And I must admit, I'm not. In fact, you know what? I'm looking forward to the Eagles playing them because it'll be a good game to watch.
Should be a good matchup. Two mobile QBs. We even had a Marcus Mariota sighting in that game. That's how bad the Browns were.
Still do Marcus Mariota things, I see though.
I was just like that. -2 yards, one completion for -2 yards. I don't even know what there is to say about the Browns, to be honest. I see, again, some of the clips you're seeing is obviously Deshaun kind of walking off on 4th down when Stefanski wanted to go for it. It's been the big one doing the rounds just now. It's just...
I've heard, though, that there was 12 in the huddle, and that's why he walked off.
That was actually a heads-up play by Watson.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know, this might be controversial, but do his O-line like him? And, are they letting him get hit? Are they just not playing for him? Is that what the problem is? Is that why they looked so much better with Flacco under centre last year than they do with Watson? Because he wasn't a bad QB when he was in Texas. I don't believe he's suddenly a terrible QB now, but there's just something not right there, and I just wonder because he gets hit an awful lot.
It's like the scene in The Longest Yard where they all just let everybody through, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think after what happened and what come out about him and stuff, I think obviously he's probably lucky to still be playing in the league.
Yeah.
But I think everything that come on the back of it, I'm not defending him at all on this. All the press and that, there's no way that isn't playing a factor with his mentality when he's now playing the game.
Yeah.
It's like he's like a husk of his former self, isn't he? He's not that Deshaun Watson that we've seen like scurrying and making plays and throwing bombs and stuff. He just doesn't seem to be that guy anymore.
Yeah. But I just think, honestly, that last week and this week, the amount of times that the D-line got to him, and I'm just wondering if it's just his O-line's just not playing for him. I think that's maybe a really, really hot take because these guys are professionals. They're getting paid. I'm sure they don't like losing, but I honestly can't believe how often. And I mean, he is quite a mobile quarterback, but he's getting hit so much, and I just don't understand it.
They maybe just want to get rid of him so they can get some more of Jameis Winston's like inspiring like team talks prior to the game, the huddle talks and stuff going, and
that is comedy.
See the return of the chicken finger.
Eating W's.
Eating W's.
Even his pre-season ones, I could sit and watch Jameis Winston talk to a crowd all day.
He's wild.
He just seems so full of life. Really, I think he's just delighted to be there and be along for the ride.
But here's another one. Since I'm on the show tonight and we're talking about the Browns, every time this opportunity comes up, I have to thank a Browns fan. So if you're listening out there, Browns fans, thanks very much.
Brian will be listening. Brian will definitely be listening.
Hey, I brought up last time, like our owner told us, like anytime you see a Browns fan or you're interacting with Browns fans, just say thanks, and it goes all the way back to not just Deshaun Watson, but before that, they've helped us out in the quarterback room a few times. Osweiler, they soaked his contract up for us, and then they did the same with Deshaun. And thank you, Browns.
There you go, massive shout out to the Browns fans. I think we'll end it there and move on before Brian starts peppering us with comments. So, right, very quickly, guys, because I realised I thought we were actually doing well for time, and then I just looked at the clock. Just a very quick statistic. Graham, you think you already know what it is. So, comes out of this Cowboys-Steelers game from last night with the delay. Dak Prescott became the first player in NFL history to throw a touchdown on 2 different days in the same game. Is the statistic, because the game went in to midnight over there, and his game-winning touchdown was to Tolbert. I think the first one was maybe Ferguson. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, was that the one you had, Graham?
Yeah, don't you just love NFL stats? Like where they pick these stats up,
Yeah, that one I mentioned earlier on when we were chatting before as well. The 2 defensive touchdowns that both went for over 100 yards. It's the first time in the NFL history that's happened in the same NFL weekend.
Yep.
But it actually happened on the same day, and it actually happened within minutes Is one another. So yeah, that was
I
a
think it was
cracker
within
as
like
well.
7 minutes each other. You had the Seahawks guy. I remember seeing him just suck on oxygen after he'd done it right enough. And then you had obviously Pat Surtain. So
I
I
think
know that was a good one.
the Seahawks one I think was controversial though, because I'm pretty sure I don't know. I think he was down when he dropped the ball. I think he was.
It's whether
I
he
think
crossed the
the
plane or
play.
not, because it was right on the touchline, and I don't think they had a great angle to overturn it.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing a few different clips of that one. It was definitely a controversial call. Right, well, we've covered all the games. I think we'll call it a day there. Just short of the hour and a half, guys. So first of all, thanks to everybody for listening. You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, wherever you do your socials. Listen along on Spotify. I sometimes listen back along on YouTube as well, which is always quite fun because you get to see the facial expressions and stuff as well when the guys are talking. But yeah, no. So thanks very much for joining me tonight, guys. A wee bit of a long one, but Kev, thanks very much.
No problem, mate. I was telling you before we started that I was knackered and dying to get to my bed. And yeah, I've really, really enjoyed this. I feel wide awake now. So thanks a lot, guys. It's been fun.
No, I know. I'm telling you, I need to get a power nap. I've started walking the dog as well, so I'm going to be getting an hour's sleep, I think, for this game. But nah, all good, all good. And Graham, thanks for joining us, and your Victory Monday.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing Victory Monday with me, and cheers, Studs, for hosting tonight. You did a good job, and nice to be on with you, Kev. You know, I enjoyed talking the game. I'm the same. Ken, it was feeling a bit lethargic coming in, but once we started talking football, it's like a second lease of life has come over us. So, and let's just hope that the Barries get beat.
Oh no! Let's not start that. Let's not start that. See, to be fair, I'm hedging my bets. I've got my 32 odds. It's actually my Terry and Matthew jersey, so I'm hedging my bets on this one.
Yeah, I'm needing to see the Texans atop the AFC for the first time in like 12 years or something. So, help us.
Is it? So if we lost, then you go top of the AFC.
Well, we'll be there or thereabout.
I kind of think it'll be one of the two is anyway.
Yeah.
Nah, listen, guys, thanks again. I really enjoyed that tonight, so much appreciated. And the guys will be back on Thursday with the preview crew. So until then, take it easy, guys.